Previously, we have seen an example of how to create bindings taking as origin a very simple class. I also mentioned that the source of information can be any .NET object that you want to use. This includes the use of the controls that are part of .NET Maui. Let's do a practical example on binding between controls, since surely at some point in your career as a .NET Maui developer, you're going to use this knowledge. Let's proceed by going to the Solution Explorer and create a new folder as part of the project called Pages. Let's create a new page as part of this folder. Let's select a content page as a template and name it Slider Page. Now let's go to the app.xaml.cs file to set this page as the start page. We have to import the namespace that is needed so that we don't have any problems and we're ready to continue. I'm going to use this stack layout that has been created by default. I'm going to cut this pair of properties from the label control and I'm going to paste them as part of the stack layout since we want to center the layout. Next, as part of the label control, I'm going to modify some properties such as let's set a rotation equal to 45, which will rotate the control 45 degrees. Let's also indicate that we want a font size equal to 50 so that the example looks good. Let's start the application. And here we can see the application being executed. We have the label control, which has the rotation that we have specified. Next, we're going to create a slider control underneath the label control. And the purpose of this slider is that we can set the rotation of the label control. So we're going to set a minimum value for the slider equal to 0 and a maximum value of 360. Because those are the maximum degrees of rotation that we can have as part of a control. At this point, we have to think about which control is going to provide the source information for the other control. What do you think it would be? Well, in our case, the control that is going to provide the source information is going to be the slider control, since it is the one that has the property called value, which is going to establish the value of the rotation for the label control. Therefore, let's indicate that we do not want a fixed value for the rotation, but that there is a binding. We will specify an origin as we did before. And to be able to use as reference a different control, we have to specify a name to the control that will be the reference, which will be the slider. Let's put a name equal to slider. To use this reference, we must do it through xReference and then write the name of the control, which in this case is slider. Finally, if you remember, we must also specify which is going to be the source property, which in our case will be the value property. Then we are going to indicate that after the source we place a comma and we have a property called path, which is going to be equal to the value property. This same you can do with any property. With this that we have done, we already have ready the binding between the pair of controls. Let's test the application to see how it behaves. Once the application starts, we see the slider with a 0 value, since it is the initial value of the slider. If we proceed to modify the slider value, we can see how the label control rotates until it reaches 360 degrees, as we have specified previously. This is how we can connect two controls so that one depends on a specific value of the other.